I definitely don't need the music. I don't want the music.
Have you heard the music? Oh, do you hear the music over there?
No.
Do you
You
not?
only hear it when you've got the headphones on.
Oh.
Yeah.
You need
But
to
I don't
know
like
when
it
to time
'cause
yourself in.
But there's pressure. I just want to start chatting. JT's ready. Cool. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Roadmap, Auto Trader UK's product and technology podcast. I'm Callum, product lead at Auto Trader, and usually found about a metre that way behind the camera, organising these podcasts. But we've kind of switched it up, haven't we, today, Rach, a little bit?
Musical
You're usually
chairs.
here. I'm sometimes there, but usually over there. But you wanted to chat about something.
Exactly.
And
I have wisdom to share.
it would have been a bit weird if you hosted your own episode and it was just a monologue. So hi, Rach. How's it going?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah.
Good stuff. So today we're diving into a topic that I think every person working in product and technology grapples with at some point, and that is confidence. So we're going to speak about why confidence matters so much in product and tech, and more importantly, how you build it when you're constantly surrounded by ambiguity, competing priorities, and sometimes a little bit of imposter syndrome as well, which sounds quite negative, but we're going to be
we're going to dive into it.
Definitely. And Rach, you recently spoke at a Product Tank event about this. How did that go?
It went really well. I think something that I found really reassuring, and it's a horrible thing to say, but when I spoke at the event, the amount of people that came over to me afterwards, asking for advice, sharing very similar experiences, it does give you a bit of a bit of reassurance that you aren't the only person facing these issues. And simply put, we need to speak about these things a lot more in the product space, where we've got very stressful roles. Like you said, we've got a lot of competing priorities. Yeah. So yeah, it was really good. It went down very well. And that was my test talk, just to see were people going to like it. They did like it, so we're doing an episode on it.
So we're doing a podcast.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So before we get into the topic in a little bit more detail, for people who might not know you and what you do at Auto Trader, who are you and what do you do?
So I am Rachel. Like Callum said, I am usually sat on that sofa. I don't think I've ever introduced myself to the audience before or listeners.
No.
Like there's an audience in the room.
You're just part of the furniture.
I'm Rachel. I am a product lead here at Auto Trader. I've been here for about 2 years now. And I look after the consumer automotive finance experience. Anything to do with exploring, researching, applying for finance on Auto Trader, looking at your options. I'm your guy.
Nice. Perfect. So first kind of question on the topic. Why did you come to a decision that you wanted to do a talk at an external event? Yeah. Like you could have obviously spoken about all sorts of stuff, whether it be stuff in the day job or other topics. Why did you decide that confidence was the one to talk about? Yeah,
so this has always been a topic that I've wanted to talk about, because throughout my career, I've always had really good feedback about how I've been delivering, what I've done day to day in my jobs, whether that's from my boss or stakeholders or people around me. Always had great feedback, but every now and again, and I've worked in tech for quite a long time now, I would get the same sentence that would come up time and time again. And it'd be the same one every time, and it'd be this. Yeah, it's just your confidence. Mm-hmm. And younger me would have absolutely had the backup about that. I think we've probably all had similar experiences as well, like having similar feedback. And when you're a lot younger in your career, you do get your backup about it, and you do think, well, that can't be true. It's just my personality. I don't know what you mean about that. What do you mean that I'm not confident? And what I wasn't appreciating at the time is actually the power that feedback held. So I have been on a bit of an experience throughout my career here at Auto Trader, in previous roles as well. And throughout my journey, I have picked up quite a few lessons and bits of knowledge that if I can just share that and just actually get the conversation going as well, to listeners and to give people reassurance, like this is not it's not a taboo thing, it's not a nasty thing, it's not horrible, like it's just part of who we are that we experience every day. If I can just impart that onto people listening, and it can spread to more and more people, hopefully it will make the product community around us be a bit of a safer space, and we can share more vulnerabilities like this.
Yeah, and it gives people the opportunity to learn from having that feedback rather than just
perfectly
seeing it as a
normal.
negative thing.
This is it. And it's one of those as well where it's just like, look, you can take that feedback on board. Someone can tell you that you're not feeling confident or you're not. And you can do one or two things. You can do what younger me did, get your back up about it, react in that way, or you can do something about it. Like, feedback should be a gift. And it's what you do in that situation, that feedback you get in, that really gives you that power.
Yeah, good stuff. And why do you think confidence is such a big topic and so important in our kind of roles as product leads, but also kind of wider roles in tech?
Yeah. Well, firstly, I don't think it gets spoken about enough. I think that as product managers, people working in product, people working in tech, we are often encouraged to have this certain persona about ourselves. So for me, going into a meeting with stakeholders and making a product decision and having to communicate that to various different stakeholders, there is a certain image that is expected of me. And it's really interesting because, and I messaged one of my friends the other day, who I was in the same meeting as her, and I was like, you did such a good job doing that. And she was like, thanks, I did not feel confident at all. So it's just little things like that. We put this persona on ourselves.
Yeah.
But I think that it's okay to talk about the moments where we're not feeling that way and what we can do about it, because it can slip through. So moving back to your question about why is it such an important thing to have? I think confidence definitely gives assurance to other people that you're working with, especially if you work in a role with, people in leadership, people in very high up roles, where they are context switching all the time. They're having to take on a lot of information. They're only getting a certain percentage of what you're like as a person. And in those moments, and it's why we say elevator pitch, it's like you've got a couple of minutes with this person in the business. What is your character that you're going to give to them? And having the confidence gives them that reassurance that when you're talking to them about a problem that you're solving or what your trajectory is, it just gives them that reassurance that they don't need to worry about that. They don't need to help out. They don't need to be concerned. So there's firstly that. Confidence makes you feel good.
Yeah.
No one ever thinks to themselves, you know what, I'm just feeling far too confident and empowered about myself today. It doesn't exist. It's that little serotonin boost. Like, you can remember the conversations that you've had where you've been really confident about something and you do leave the situations feeling like you're on a high.
Yeah.
And I do think as well, like, having confidence is an accelerator to growth. So, we always talk about, these are the frameworks you need to do. These are the boxes that you need to tick to get to certain levels of your career. But no one ever talks about the power and the, I hate the word, but softer skills.
Yeah.
They're not soft skills. They're very hard to do. They should be hard skills.
Yeah, proper skills.
Proper skills. Yeah. That's what we'll rename them to. Confidence is an accelerator to your personal growth as well. So it's really important that we talk about it. Yeah.
And I guess you'd say that if you've got confidence, then, as you said, the people around you, especially some of those senior stakeholders that we'd work with, will have confidence in you as well, just because of the way that you come across and the way that you present information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, cool. Good stuff. And there's this idea about confidence versus competence.
Yes.
I know we chatted about it. It's a horrible question, really. But do you think confidence is more important than competence, or do you think there's this kind of relationship between the two?
Yeah, I think confidence should be boosting that. It should go hand in hand. So like I said, we can all do our J jobs really well. It's why we're hired into these roles. It's why we are product people. But again, it's just having that boost to how you deliver that matters. So having confidence, again, it's kind of like I don't know, is it Mario Kart? Where it's just it just boosts your power. I don't know how else to describe it. That's how I see it in my head.
Things, it just boosts
you're just woo!
Yeah, nice. I like it. It's good. Yeah, I guess confidence without any competence.
Yeah.
You're probably not going to
I think competence is a general category as well.
Yeah.
I feel like it's an umbrella term for how you describe if someone's not competent. There's usually a whole host of factors that feeds into that. So again, confidence should be a factor that forms that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And have you ever worked in a team where confidence has impacted the decision making that gets made in that team, in a product team?
Yeah, I've certainly seen it with And again, I think it's more where I've seen it really matter. Firstly, on, I guess, the more negative side of things is when people are a bit earlier on in the career and they're just finding the way. I can remember my first job in product, and I can remember the first presentation I had to do. It is nerve-wracking and you're never going to get it right the first time. So I have definitely seen it where it's just that natural thing that comes through. But again, I think you see that in other people and you're like, right, I really want to help them out. And that's where you find your community. Often as well, where I have seen confidence, and again, I'm quite guilty of this. I do it sometimes, particularly if I'm overly anxious about something. It's usually when a person knows what they're doing, they have all the right information in their heads, but it's how they execute themselves and project themselves onto other people and meetings that they're in. And whether that's just, like in my case, it's like maybe I didn't prepare enough for that, and that's what I know that I need to do in future. Or it might be audience as well. Like I have been in workshops in the past where just the presence of someone with a lot of knowledge who's got loads of experience on you, sometimes you can feel that energy.
Yeah.
And it's all about how you deal with it. And because you are going to come across these situations, and it is all about how you handle these situations that should hopefully matter to this podcast.
Yeah, definitely. And are there any areas, I mean, you mentioned kind of stakeholder management and presenting back to people and sharing with stakeholders, but are there any other areas of product management where you think confidence really makes a difference? Yeah,
I'd definitely say stakeholders, and yeah, definitely people in leadership roles. So again, like these are people in the business where they are context switching, they're making high up decisions, and again, it just links back to that reassurance. They're only getting a small percentage of who you are. Often they have their own pressures going on in the business. So if you've ever been in a meeting with like a stakeholder and they might be reacting in a certain way, and you're like, oh, why are you being a bit harsh on me? You're bringing my vibe down a bit. Usually it's just having a bit of empathy in them. Like they might have other stuff going on. And again, if you go into that meeting just being confident in yourself, that makes a world of difference. They don't need to worry about it.
Yeah, cool. So as someone who's had a bit of a journey with confidence, and obviously it's become a topic that you're passionate about and want to speak about, if I was a product person that was looking to build up my confidence, what are some ways that I can start to actively build that over time?
There's a really good technique, and I don't claim to have created this.
Rachel's technique.
Yeah, Rachel's technique. It's something that I've actually learned working here at Autotrader. For those who are listening at home, we have a coaching program. So I got to a point in my career a few months ago, actually, where I needed to really get on top of how confident I was feeling, how I could boost myself in the business. So I got myself a coach, and I actually learned through a coaching exercise, because he was asking me in the session. So Pete, one of our coaches here, he was just asking me, he was like, right, okay, well, you feel unconfident in these situations. What are you going to do about it? So the whole idea of coaching is they ask you questions until you get to a root cause of what action you can take. And I just remember being in this meeting and I was like, actually, I don't write things down as much as I should do. I work 1,000,000 miles an hour in my job, and sometimes it's really important for me to just take a step back and just reflect on what I'm doing in certain situations. And I do that in my everyday job, but I don't do that when it comes to my personal development and what is that situation happening around me. And that's exactly what I did. So my advice is you're going to want to take your first step, right, before you do anything else, before you start practicing things or taking actions. This is what you need to do. And it's self-reflection. Yeah. And how it works is everyone's going to have different journeys, different experiences going on. And that's the whole purpose of this. You're going to find things from doing this that you'll find your own kind of outlets and ways to handle that. And the idea of a self-reflection model is there's 3 questions that you need to ask yourself. It doesn't have to be a whole mindful journal if you don't want it to be, but it's just super quick. 3 questions you need to ask yourself. What? So what? Now what? Your what is happening. What situation am I in? What is the reactions to people at the time? Does it feel good or bad? Your so what is okay. What is your perspective of that? What elaborate on it, really dig in. It's kind of like, you know, the 5 whys exercise.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
why? And then the now what is, okay, well, you've analysed the situation, you've taken in the logic of it, what is happening, what are you going to do about it? And it doesn't have to be perfect. It does not have to be a silver bullet that's going to resolve the situation every time you do it. It's just a way to get practicing and handling that every time you come across it.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, it's just pinpointing exactly where it's happening, because we'll all have situations where we'll have weeks, we'll have days where we're on a high, we're absolutely smashing our jobs, and there's always something. Like, no one is 100% confident all of the time.
Yeah.
You'll have a situation where you've not fully reflected on it, you've not thought about it, but you'll feel a certain way. You're like, oh, do you know what? I'm just feeling a bit off today. I don't know what's happened. And just by doing this, you can just pinpoint it and react and act on it and just get better every time.
On the coaching point as well, you said there was maybe something that triggered you to go, right, okay, this is the time for me to engage with a coach and like start thinking about this stuff in more detail, maybe get challenged on some things and get taught how to think about things in a certain way. Was there a specific like moment, or how did you recognize that it was the time to start thinking in that way?
I think it was when I was having more days where I was thinking about the problem than days when I wasn't thinking about it.
Yeah.
So for me, I was like, right, if this is becoming an occurrence in my everyday role, and it shouldn't be eating me up that much, I shouldn't be having to kind of deal with these internal things.
Yeah.
It was just the point where I was like, actually, I can get help about it.
Yeah.
Because it's going to make me feel better. It's why people choose to do therapy. It's why they choose to ask for advice. Reaching out to somebody else, I think absolutely just lifts a weight off your shoulders. And I did just get to a point I was like, well, I can either just like let it go in my head and like just let it swirl around, or I can just ask for advice.
Yeah.
And I got so contained in my own head about it. I was like, I need to just kind of unpick that and just learn more about it. In a way, it was a bit like therapy, which I know Pete don't like to say he's a therapist, but I always feel better coming out of the sessions. Well, so
talking to someone about anything is always useful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially someone who's got all the skills that you might need to
100%,
help you go on that journey.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really good. So a big part of our jobs is like setbacks and curveballs and, you know, all sorts of stuff flying at you, good, bad, ugly. How do you deal with those kind of scenarios that can often be quite negative without that kind of affecting the journey you've been on with your confidence?
Yeah, I guess there's a couple of times in my career where I can pinpoint where I've not felt as confident. And again, it leads back to through self-reflection. Like, what situations have I had in the past?
Yeah.
And I can remember, so again, it's just, I guess it's like an example that I can give. And again, everybody's experience is going to be different. But I can remember a time, and I started to do it here as well. And on this self-reflection, I was like, oh, this isn't good. Like, it's not helping me. I can remember a time where I used to, when I worked at Moonpig, so in my previous company, we had to do these monthly check-ins, right, where it was an update on your OKRs.
Yeah.
Anyone who knows OKRs knows that at the best of times, they are so chaotic. You're always having to explain logic. You get a lot of questions from stakeholders, from exec teams. And in these check-ins, they'd all be there, right? And they'd all be asking you questions about, okay, that's amber, that's red. How's that going? And you just get a flurry of questions. And I remember at the time, I just set up this new squad. It was super technical. I am not a technical person. And I was just finding the bearings myself. And I didn't have enough knowledge in my head. But in my attempt to have more confidence, what I actually did was, in preempting all the questions that they were going to ask as part of this, I put far too much information in my head. Stuff where it was just too much detail. All it did was it just confused people in the room so that they'd ask more questions. And I absolutely tanked it. And I can remember that time so clearly in my head.
Yeah.
And I did realise I do start to do that here. I'm quite an oversharer. Like, I am a wealth of information, but sometimes I don't think that serves me well.
Yeah.
Because it just confuses people. So what I've learned to do through this self-reflection and through, I guess just like thinking about ways that I can manage it a bit better. One of the things that I found that's really helped, and it feels really simple to say, but just give people enough. Just give them enough knowledge that they don't need to know everything about your product. stakeholders and people in leadership, they are very curious people. They want the product to do well. They are going to have questions, but it is perfectly okay to pause. Like, you don't have to answer straight away. Think about the question. And it's perfectly fine to get comfortable with just saying, look, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll look into it. I don't think it's one for this discussion. And just have that power in yourself to push back. I think when you try and answer things all at once, you go off tangents and you don't get to the point of what you're trying to get out of that conversation.
Yeah.
It is still a learning curve for me. I'd like to think that I'm perfect. And I'm sure that like I'll have stakeholders listening to this episode and they're like, oh, she still does it. But
she still waffles on.
she still waffles.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a learning curve, and it's just building up these habits.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Because when you think about someone not being confident, you maybe think about them not saying enough, or like freezing,
or like
in certain
introverted,
scenarios.
like oh,
yeah, exactly. But actually,
Yeah.
like what you're talking about there, and I think I'm the same, is sometimes you over prepare, cram too much information in.
You want to be seen as like the beacon of knowledge.
Yeah,
and it's like all it does is, because you've been in meetings with people, you're just
Yeah.
like, oh God, I don't know what they've just said. Like
Yeah, there's something about like stitching together.
yeah.
Like firstly considering who's going to be in the room
Yeah.
with you, who are the stakeholders, what level of knowledge do they already have, but then stitching together a bit of a story.
Yeah.
And making sure that story isn't like
Yeah.
just pages and pages of capital letters.
Yeah.
Like if you just gone, here's all the
You've
information.
hit the
about
nail on the
thing.
head there. It's being a storyteller.
Yeah.
Like, how do you create that narrative? Because that's all a product is. You're trying to explain, like, this is how this has evolved, this problem, or like, you know, and
Yeah.
it's what you're getting out of the situation as well. So are you going into that meeting to waffle, or are you like, look, I need to get to this point today. I need your advice on this, or this is a solution I've got. Have you got any questions? Or are you happy for me to go ahead with it? So just get straight to the point.
Yeah.
And it's going to be difficult to do to begin with. Like,
And acknowledging that everyone needs a different story as well.
Yeah.
So like some people, like if you're in one of those sessions with leadership that's like a proper deep dive, then they're probably going to want a decent novel from you, aren't they, in terms of what's going on and like quite a lot of the details.
Oh, we're just going to a meeting going,
yeah.
it's all right, this is performing well, don't worry about it. It's fine. Don't worry.
Here's a short
Fine.
poem about what's going on. Yeah. It's just a bit
We
different.
should
Isn't
do more poems.
We should do.
There we go.
should do more poems. And do you think confidence is something that if you'd have left it, you hadn't engaged with a coach and you'd have just like continued maybe as you were going, do you think that confidence is something that would have come naturally over time? Or do you think you do need to take that step forward and talk to someone about it and gain some of those skills?
Yeah. I don't think it would have come naturally to me. I don't think I have often been told that I'm perhaps a bit too humble. So that's other feedback that I've got. I think it's great to be humble in your job because nobody likes a big ego. But sometimes I can be too, not critical of myself, but I can be too, like, I can humble myself quite a lot. And actually, I don't know if it's imposter syndrome. So that is a big thing that happens, especially when you move into jobs where you're making a lot of decisions. I recognise that trait in me, and there's no change in that. That is my personality, but it's what I choose to do with it. And that can affect my confidence. And I think confidence is like a byproduct of feeling that way. Yeah. I'm also like, I do overthink everything. And again, it's not a professional life thing. It's a personal life thing. It's just how my brain's wired.
Yeah.
But for me to get happiness out of it, out of myself, I realise I need to kind of work with that. Like, it's just, you know, if you're born a certain way or like that is just what your personality is, and if it's not making you happy, you just need to do something about it. And that's, for me, because confidence doesn't come naturally.
Yeah.
I do have to work harder than others.
Yeah.
And this is me being really vulnerable on a podcast about it as well. So I guess in some ways there's a bit of confidence coming out of that.
But yeah, exactly. And putting yourself, I think for me, maybe does it come naturally or not? I don't know. But for me, I think putting myself in those, what we say at AT, like stretch scenarios rather than strain scenarios, you know, just the right level of challenge for you.
Yeah, don't push yourself into a situation where you're like, oh.
Exactly. And then just repeat those stretches over time. They won't be stretches anymore. They'll just be like part of your job. You'll build that confidence. You'll know how to navigate that forum or that meeting or whatever that like task is that used to really worry you. Yeah. So I think that's probably my little take on it as a fairly new product lead at AT. Yeah.
No, it's a good way to, because I guess like, you're fairly, like, you're taking more and more responsibilities on every day. You're exposed to different parts of the business. Yeah. So you must be on a similar journey where you are stretching yourself and just getting to learn it. Yeah.
Yeah, you just have to, don't you, really? Because especially in these kind of jobs, because things just get thrown at you You just have to
A
navigate
little
it.
bit, yeah.
Yeah, they do. It's such a broad range of responsibilities. We're doing such different things every day, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So you talked about Pete, your coach.
Yeah.
But are there any other people around you that, like maybe it's your team or your manager, that impact your confidence as a product person?
Yeah. So one of the things that I have learnt from self-reflection, again, is that it is so easy to get stuck inside your own head. And that's not just like confidence. It can be your perspective on things. It can be your mental health. It can be your opinions. And it's so easy to get stuck in a spiral and just keep those things to yourself. And it doesn't help. And we need to be more vulnerable in product and tech and in roles where they are very demanding. So what I started to do was, somebody said it the other day, like in a meeting. I can't remember it now. So I'm really sorry if that was you that said it. But I thought it was really useful. You can do 100 things over and over again and get the same results. So why are you expecting different results every time if you keep doing it?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was the exact analogy, but it's just like, why are you doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results?
The power of like changing things up, doing things slightly differently, and then getting the different outcome.
So just do something different each time. So what I started to do was I was like, well, I'm going to just find somebody in work, because like the beauty of products is you can talk to other product managers. We are in very similar roles. We have the same stressors and situations that we're facing.
Yeah.
So I just started to reach out to the community a little bit more. And it doesn't even need to be just going to someone and saying, oh my God, I don't feel confident today. Pouring your heart. If you don't want to do that, that is absolutely fine. What you can do instead is just feel like, okay, I've got this meeting coming up, or I've got a workshop that I'm running. Can I just soundboard? Can I just run this past you? What are your thoughts on it? And nobody, if anyone is a good enough product manager, no one's ever going to go, no, I ain't got time for that. And I don't know if it's like the beauty of working at Auto Trader is you can just get somebody's opinion on something and they can be very open with you.
Yeah. And we like never worked together, but
no,
I'd happily come to you and ask you anything like that.
Other, yeah.
We're always chatting.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like we should encourage that as like not just at this company, but just in any community that you work in. We need to talk more about it. So just find that community and safe space, somebody who you think I could get something constructive out of that. I can get the guidance. And those relationships will naturally form then. We're still learning our craft, aren't we? Is there a job description for product they're in?
There is not.
And that's what makes it hard as well, because you're just like, what am I doing?
People try to put job descriptions, but there definitely isn't one. And do you think you'll naturally draw, in those kind of conversations that you're having with other product people and other people around the business, are you naturally drawn to people who you see as being quite confident? Like, do you think confidence is quite a contagious trait?
Oh, 100%. Again, it's like it works both ways as well. Have you ever been in a room with someone who's like an energy vampire?
Yes.
Like they just make everything really negative. They're uncomfortable to be around, and it's weird. They do have like an energy that they radiate, and it's the same with confidence. If you're in a room with somebody who like is very empowered, and it's not because there might be people listening to this, and I did get a question last week from somebody in the audience at Product Tank, and they were like, well, what about someone with too much confidence? And I know exactly what they mean. It's somebody with like a massive ego. They think their opinion is the best opinion ever, and it's very overinflated. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about somebody who like they can just say things with logic and they're calm and they just put you at ease. You do get the opposite side of confidence, but yeah,
but we want to stay positive.
We want to stay at positive vibes only.
Have you had any more, like, you've got the coach, people around you, are there any more formal relationships, like managers or like official mentoring relationships that you've had around this kind of skill set as well?
So I'm fortunate. I do have a very supportive line manager. I also feel I can be really, whether she likes it or not, I can be very open with her about my opinion of things. And she is, she's very black and white as well, which is great. Like she will just give you the logic and the support that you need. So I'm very fortunate about that, but I do appreciate people can't always speak to the line managers about it. I think it depends on what relationship you have. There is always someone in the business though. I often find people in leadership are brilliant as well to talk to.
They'll have been through their own journeys, right, with confidence.
100%. And I talk to Pete quite a lot, like Pete, who
usually sits here as well.
Yeah, Pete, who usually sits here on the sofa, and he is brilliant to chat to as well.
Yeah.
It's just finding it again. It's like finding that energy. Yeah. Like there's a certain energy that people give off, and you're just like, I want to talk to them. And yeah,
definitely. And as product people, you kind of lead as, even if you're quite new to the role like myself, you're still kind of leading a team and giving the team direction. How do you think we can create an environment in our teams that foster confidence for everyone within it, not just for us?
Yeah, it's a tricky one because not everybody, and again, you shouldn't feel like you have to if you don't want to, but I think creating a safe space where people can be open. And I also find as well, like, I think it depends on the environment that you're in. So if you're working in a team, maybe it's not the best thing to be in a stand-up in a huge audience where there's like 20 developers or and everyone's talking through work. Sometimes people don't feel comfortable doing that. And again, in retros, so I'm not really thinking about like the ceremonies that you do, but if you know that you've got like a one-to-one with like a tech lead or a designer, because there's usually like a little, it's not a partnership, what's three
like
people?
A trio.
A trio, yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
A trio of power. Yeah, like, you know, I think find the spaces where you might feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
Again, like, and I've done this in previous jobs. Like, I've always had like a really good relationship with like the engineering manager or the tech lead, because you have to have that, or the designer. And actually, you find as well, like, you're all solving the same problem. They can help you. But I think that if you can start that between yourselves, that helps with the team as well.
Yeah.
It's just finding the right forums to do that in.
Yeah, definitely. I started AT as a grad 4 years ago. But when you're quite early on, you don't have that confidence. Like, there's so many new scenarios. So
I'd be scared if someone did have that
confidence from the get-go. Yeah, it's definitely something that builds, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the people that I always really like to be around and built my confidence were the people who would always ask. You know, they'd kind of notice that maybe you were a bit more introverted or less experienced, and be like, what do you think about this? Or like, what are your opinions?
That really helps.
Yeah.
It definitely does.
So you're not leaving anyone behind then, are you? Yeah, you're taking everyone with you.
I have started to do that in meetings a lot more as well. So if I am in like, because we love a good meeting, don't we? And we love to all chat and like really get into problems. And again, it links back to, we've talked about DISC profiles quite a lot on the podcast previously. So what is it? It's like dominance, influence.
You've committed now.
I've committed now.
I can't remember.
Society? Social?
Yeah, something like that.
And then community? I don't know.
Yeah.
I can see it.
I know what I am, but I can't remember what they all mean.
Yeah, I know what I'm like as a person, so I'll just see. I know the letters. Yeah. But you'll often find, especially in meetings, so there's a personality type where it's like the dominators and the influencers will always try, and it's just naturally in their character that they want to like take control, get decisions made, and like really lead, and not like, it's not always useful all the time for diversity of opinion. So I've started to do in these situations, if I notice that behaviour creeps in, knowing what I know and how I felt in previous situations where I am not a natural D energy, I'll just ask someone, but what's your thought?
Yeah.
I won't purposely call them out, because I used to hate it in meetings as well, where someone would be like, oh, you've been quiet. Have you got any thoughts? I'm like, well, now you've said I've been quiet. I'm going to be even more quiet.
There's definitely a way to go about it.
Someone goes to you, they're like, huh, you in a mood?
Yeah.
It's like, well, not now. But
yeah, I am now.
Now
you've said it.
Now with you. Now you've said it. It's just finding these opportunities for other people and just making sure that like there is that diversity of opinion in meetings. Not everybody has to have the same personality.
Yeah.
And that brings out the confidence in them then.
Yeah. Cool. So drawing it to a close, if someone's listening today, they're feeling like they could really do with something to build up their confidence.
Yeah.
What's one thing they can start doing, like before the end of the week, before Friday? What's one thing you'd recommend that they take away to build their
self-reflection?
Self-reflection.
What? So what? Now what? Just ask yourself those 3 questions. So the next time you're feeling in that certain way and it creeps up and there's been a certain thing that's happened and you're like, all right, what's triggered that?
Yeah.
write it down. Just take the time to do it. And I know we're so busy, but just make the space for yourself to do that. And just get practicing it as well. Like, we do it in our work, don't we? Let's test this out. Is it working? Nope. Do something else.
Yeah.
Learn.
Yeah, it's a good analogy, isn't it? Applying some of the stuff we do when we're building
Treat
products.
ourselves like products.
Yeah. In some ways,
I
in
think
not
I
other
said that on
ways.
another podcast show. I think that's just my analogy every time. I'm like, just treat yourself like a product.
Everyone's a product. And just in terms of like resources and things, are there any books or podcasts or other tools that have helped you that you'd recommend for the listeners?
I find, and this is more from the fact that, again, I think a lot of my confidence comes from the fact that I do overthink situations quite a lot. There was a really good book that I read, and I don't know if I can say the full title of it. We'll use the beeper. I wonder if you can type. Was it The Subtle Art of Not Giving a...
Perfect.
Nailed it. Yeah, you can get it on Amazon. It's not a long book, but it's got a really good like diagram in there. And the idea is, look, you're in this situation. Can you control it? Do you care about it? So if you can control the situation and you care about it, do something about it.
Yeah.
If you can't control that situation, don't do anything. If you can control the situation and you don't care, don't give a beep.
Yeah.
So
nice. Perfect. Yeah, good recommendation.
Let's check it out. And it's a really quick, like, it's like a 200-page book.
Yeah.
I think I want to say it's 99p on Amazon. I've no idea. I got it for that. Might be even more.
Yeah, it's been
Check
around
it out.
for a while, isn't it? No, it's a good book. Cool. Perfect. That draws us to a close. So yeah, thanks so much, Rach, for chatting today. It's good to talk about these
It's been
kind
good
of
to be a
topics,
guest.
right? And you've been on the other side of the sofa, not having to worry about all the hosting stuff. So that's good. So yeah, as always, for everyone listening, thanks for listening, firstly. But also don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Spotify and Apple, and give this episode a like as well. And we'll see you all next week for the next episode. See you later. Thanks, Rach.
Thank you.